My name is Ryil Adamson. This is Using PBL with Special Education Students. I'm pretty sure that you're in the right place, because if I know anything about the people from special education, they always sit in the back. I'm going to insult you here right away. I tried this without. I'm going to ask you to go to the group and to the collection that I posted, and I'm going to do it up here, and that's the insulting part. But I tried to do this by just telling people to do it when I gave this presentation yesterday, and it did not go swimmingly. So anyway, from your Echo menu, groups. Our group is INTAC 2014. Collections. The teacher's pet in the back of the room has already noticed that I'm on page 7. R. Adamson, Using PBL for Special Education Students. We're gonna work some in there, and we're also gonna work some in a project that I posted to the library, and I'll get to that in just a little bit. But the first thing I want to point out here in this collection is Special Education INTAC 2014 takeaways, which will take you to a Google Doc that you can use to post questions as we go along, and takeaways, and again, suggestions for others as well. You'll see from the first session that I've made a few new friends already. They've posted some questions yesterday. I've answered them. And I already have some nice email dialogue with a couple of them as well. One of the things that we're going to talk about today is the possibility of collaborating on a presentation next year at INTAC. And so if you can get on there and get me your email, it sure would be great. I get so nervous. The other thing I've posted on that collections board that I want to point to you right now is Ryil's Vita. And I did that for you because the last thing in the world you want is me to have an opportunity to talk about myself. We only have an hour and 15 minutes. So the first thing we're going to do, thank you for getting there. I'm going to start with a little bit of a presentation. Now, I want to tell you that this worked in rehearsal. Oh, and it looks like it works there now. So we've covered a lot of that business stuff already. My Vita is up there on the collections, the Google Doc for questions. Oh, see me on IMDb. The thing you have to give back to me, since I'm not spending the hour and a half talking about myself, I am an actor, and so if you visit IMDb and search for my page, you won't see it, but producers have a pro version that ranks how often people are searched for. So when you're auditioning for a part, the higher up you are, the more valuable you seem to them. And since I haven't been in a movie for a couple of years, I'm about the 1.5 millionth most famous person on IMDb. So search for me 15, 20 times, and maybe that'll help. And when we get to libraries and the new tech projects, which we'll get to pretty soon here, we'll search for the best ways to cheat. Here's a little quick, just a little quick. We're on greeting stuff right now. I'm going to talk about the Three Stooges next, and then we'll give it while I'm switching from the PowerPoint to the library. I'll ask you to. I'll ask you to pop onto takeaways if you're in an effort to keep you in the room, and then after we do that, we're going to talk a little bit also about using that Echo as an organization tool and a way to communicate between special ed and regular ed, and then we'll finish up with the important part where you tell everybody what I did wrong and how to do it better. But the first thing I want to talk about a little bit is a framework for communicating what special education is and how we intervene with our young people, to general educators in a way that I think that they can understand it. Now, I don't know if any of you were lucky enough to be at the CEC, the National Convention for Exceptional Children in 1998 to hear Richard Lavoie's keynote speech. Now, that does mean that you're lucky, but it also means you're unlucky because you might be almost as old as I am. But the whole idea of remediation and compensation came from him. In short, we essentially work with students in two different ways. We remediate with our special education students by teaching them the things they didn't get the first time or the second time or however many times that was. And we remediate by, with our face-to-face learning and getting those specific skills, the gaps in their learning. Or we compensate by finding ways to get them access to the general education curriculum immediately. And the way Dr. Lavoie explained it was the way all good things are explained, through the Three Stooges. Now what happens is Larry, Moe, and Curly are running around and they're getting into some shenanigans, and as Larry, Moe, and Curly do, and they run across a porcupine. And one of the Stooges pets the porcupine. I have no idea which Stooge is which, to be honest with you. But he gets porcupine quills on his hand. And now the Stooges have to solve that problem, and they can solve that problem through remediation or compensation. Remediation is picking those quills out one at a time, solving the problem at its root level. There are some great advantages to remediation. Ultimately, it is better, right? It's better if those kids have those specific skills, if those gaps are filled. But on the other hand, it takes longer, as most things that are better do. It's slower and it's harder. Now, when we move the remediation concept into education, reading remediation, an obvious one is phonics, right? In terms of the new tech vernacular, a nice way to think about that is workshops. Skills Tutor is a computer program that we use at our school, and everybody's got, a lot of us have some sort of version of that, right? It's Skills Tutor or it's something else. Now, math remediation, some examples would be to go back and teach them the math facts that they didn't get. Again, workshops, Khan Academy. A lot of our teachers ask our learners to go back and look at the videos on Khan Academy to fill in gaps that they didn't have. Now here is some tough talk about remediation in the way that I explain it to general education students or teachers. Remediation generally means leaving the class and missing something. One or the other, you can't have both. And what I say to them is this: I can take any beginning steps reader in the school and I can bring that reader up to grade level. I can do the same thing with any with any student who's got math issues. I can do it. All you have to do is give me a room and give me that learner for as long as it takes. What you can't have is, while I'm teaching him to read, you can't be pestering him about why he hasn't finished the Scarlet Letter. It's just that simple, as most of you know. Now back to compensation. So what happened, and we're going to talk most about compensation today. So what happened to the Stooges is they grabbed whichever Stooge it was who had problems with the quills in his hand, and they simply cut the quills off right there. And now his hand is good to go, right? It has some advantages, compensation does. It's faster. It's less obtrusive. That tough talk is no longer really quite as important because I haven't really taken them out of the class. The student doesn't have to leave the activity. Larry, Moe, and Curly are back into shenanigans at the end of the commercial break. But the quills are still in his hand. It's positive and there's a negative to everything. Some examples of reading compensation. Word queue is one that we use. And word queue is, and again, just as I spoke about with Skills Tutor, where you may have that particular program, word queue is a screen reader and a word predictor for writing. We use it quite a bit. I scan in textbooks, make PDFs out of them, load them up onto the briefcase, and students then have the textbook read aloud to them. And I know they use it because every time I fall behind, they tell me all about it. It works. Now, audiobooks is another one. My son's got eye fixation disorder. Stand close to him and his eyes go. It makes it a little bit hard to read a whole novel. So generally, when they've got a novel, I download the audiobook with only one caveat. You have to sit down and read with it while it's reading to you. Now, this offends the sensibilities of some educators or parents or even other students. But my point is this, my question to them is this: what do you want? Especially at the high school level where I happen to be now, don't you want them to understand the literature in order to understand the human condition? You're not teaching them to read, right? You're teaching them higher level thinking skills. So what do we really care about, regarding how they get that material? And the same thing, discovery education is, and I'm sorry, I missed one thing on word queue. Our district has a district-wide subscription to word queue, but they keep it a secret. So you guys probably do have something that you don't know about as well. We've also got discovery education, which is a contracted, real nice database of, you can type in anything and they've got a video for it. I understand the Stamp Act. I didn't understand it when I read it, but I've seen the movie. The education portal, though, is free. Just Google education portal and you'll find it. And they've got videos of just about everything as well. Going back to the novel issue, if it's a difficult novel, I always have my students see the movie first. Even though our traditional way is to everybody reads the book and then watches the movie. And my challenge to the world is, if seeing the movie is not good enough, well, write the project to prove it. Now, another one I want to talk a little bit about here is color change. On a Google Doc or in Microsoft Word, you can change the color from that black on white. Black on white is the most difficult thing to see. We use black on white because it's less expensive than colored paper or any of that. And for a while we had our young people driving. I'm so sorry. I'm from nex+Gen Academy in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We had young people driving all the way to Texas to go to a special clinic where they would check colors and then they'd come back with glasses, with shaded glasses. It was a fad with us for a while. And then I also ended up with a whole bookshelf of different colored paper. Which color do you like? And all those things are valuable, but there sure are a whole lot easier now. As difficult as this job is and as hard as things are for our IEP students, they're getting better all the time. Things like all those compensation tools that I talked about were just not available a decade ago. Echo all by itself does a whole lot of things that an IEP that we used to say no. The parent would say, well, can't I have every assignment written down? Oh, how am I supposed to do that? Can't I know when it's due? All of those things. It's a brave new world. And spell check, of course, is also an obvious reading compensation tool. We talk about math compensation. Calculator is a nice one. The talking watch story. I had a young man who in an IEP, I was absolutely certain he needed to learn to tell time so he could get from place to place. And he said, well, why do I need that? And I said, so you could get from place to place, so you could be on time. You know what time it is. And he said, well, wouldn't I just do this? And he pushed his watch, and it said, the time is 12:42. Oh, okay, dude, that'll work just fine. Hands-on algebra. Anybody know that program? I would absolutely recommend if you're working on math, to Google that and take a look at that. It's just brilliant. Essentially putting pawns and numbers on a balance beam scale. Take it off one side, you have to take it off on the other, keeping it balanced. No royalties there. Absolutely brilliant. Rhymes and Times is an old program. And this is a royalty. I used to produce movies. I produced the video for them. But it's a compensation tool in that they teach the multiplication tables through song, dance, play, coloring, worksheets. A real comprehensive tool. In short, or in summary, we're talking about remediation and compensation. And I hope you take this back. I think this is something that people can, and the slideshow here is on that collection as well. In short, remediation is pulling the quills out. Compensation is cutting them off at the arm. I'm going to move on to the project next. Does anybody have any questions or comments before we do so?
Better in a high school setting?
The question was, if you didn't hear in the back, are you of the opinion that compensation just works better in the high school setting? I certainly am of the opinion that it's an easier sell.
It is?
Yeah, I am, because an easier sell to the general education population, because I'm not taking them away. I'm not, I'm not. They're still in the classroom.
Right.
And in our field, the answer is always it depends, right? But that's where I am on that.
So how do you sell it to leadership? Because a lot of times they might feel like, hey, we're just giving these kids crutches.
Right. How do you sell it to leadership? It might be just a crutch. I think I'd sell it probably going back to the same diatribe I gave on audiobooks and what do you want, right? You want them to access that. You want them to go. And I'd also sell it to them with the tough talk of one or the other. You can't have both.
Okay.
Great. We're going to go to libraries, and we're going to go to best ways to cheat. If you search for cheat, you'll find the project that we're going to talk about. And I'm going to sit down and do that. Last time I tried this, I had a little bit of technical snafu, so it may take me a minute. Please feel free to get onto that Google Doc and post any takeaways or anything from there too. Yep, happened again. So I'm going to library. New Tech Project Library. I'm searching for cheat. And I'm opening up the best ways to cheat. Okay, so anyway, what the backstory of this, and again, now we're talking about a compensation technique to help students access the general education curriculum. We had an issue in our American Humanities class. It was AP. The history portion of it was AP and the English was not. But we're a small school. AP, 11th grade history, was the only option, and we had special education students in it. And it was not working very well. They asked me to quit. We're a full inclusion school. They asked me to stop going to a number of places and go in there and see if we could see what we could do to help our students succeed in there without taking them out of the class. My vision for this is this. I'm going to show you what I think is an adaptable project for any age level and any subject level. So my vision is that on this project library a year from now, We're going to have best ways to cheat in American studies. We're going to have best ways to cheat in biology, best ways to cheat in third grade, best ways to cheat all over. And so if you do post something to the Best Ways to Cheat series, if you adapt and post it up, please let me know. Because my other vision is that 2 or 3 of us then apply to present next year together in a cross-school presentation on the Best Ways to Cheat series. I hope you do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of run you through a little bit of this project so you can see the parts of the project and give you some ideas about how I think it could be adapted. Well, let's get going. When I look down on this briefcase, right up at the beginning, and Lucy, I've got some splaining to do. Some of these links I found during the presentation yesterday. Some of these links I found weren't good. I'm going to have to archive this project and repost a new one, and I will have that done before the beginning of the school year. And what I mean by that is links to example websites that the students made. So anyway, this is examples of the final product from the students, facilitators' materials. Let's start with project essentials. I'm going to open up the entry doc. You're welcome to open it up. And while I'm reading it aloud to you, you can be pretending to pay attention as you read it to yourself at your desk. So here we are. This just in, American Studies is a hard class. If your grade isn't low, you're the only one. About 1 month ago, Dr. Stanton asked me to join the class in an effort to determine how to help you succeed in American Studies. He asked for these things: to preserve the academic rigor of this AP class, to find instructional tools hardworking students can use to succeed in class. So we, your classroom teachers, and I have spent the last month or so trying to do just that. We modified the agenda, and that was, we talk about compensation, that was me just going to the general education teachers and saying, I think there may be too much verbal instruction here. If we could get more populated agendas, that would help parents and learners keep up. We showed programs like WordQ and Discovery Education, which I mentioned during the Stooges, and continued with things like Lunchtime Workshop. Each has some value. As students, you know which have more value and which has less. Next, it became time to compile these tools into one readable document, so you and students in future years will be able to access them easily. This posed some problems. If we wrote up a document, there's no guarantee you'd read it. If we wrote up a document and you read it, there's no guarantee you'd remember it. If we wrote up a document, there's no guarantee it would be any good. So we determined the best way to meet our original goals was to have you design a teaching tool on how to succeed in this class. In groups, you'll be creating a Google site titled The Best Ways to Cheat in American Studies. This site will provide students in this class and students in future years with the tools they need to learn the material and improve their grade. A little bit about grouping here. As we often do, and you know this, we often go in and teach things to a lot of students so that our IEP students don't feel singled out. And so this became an entire class group project. Now, what we did with grouping, though, is this was one of the groups that we did homogenously. IEP students were together. In New Mexico, gifted is also special education, and those are on my caseload. Gifted students were together. And then general education students were together. Again, though, pretty much by the higher achieving, it was pretty homogenous. Partly because the teachers up to that point in that class had been doing a lot of things heterogeneously. And also partly so that I could get some time workshopping with my students without it really being quite as obvious. I'm sure it didn't fool anybody but me, but that's all right. And then the third page of this entry doc. This is a contest and it has a real prize. One of the groups will design the best site. That site will also be shared with the school and be placed on the American Studies site on Echo. Every student in this group will earn a half-grade bump on their semester grade. If your final semester grade is a C+, you get bumped to a B-. But wait, there's more. We're also using the best product to present to the entire new tech network. We're planning to show it at the summer conference, and if it's accepted, every member of the group will receive another half-grade bump on their second semester grade. And as you see, it did get accepted. I'm here, and they got both. So it is certainly a real-world problem, one that matters to them. And then, from there, of course, we go on to need to knows. Do we have any need to knows? Right. Yes, sir. You should be in libraries. And then from libraries, you'd go to the New Tech Project library. And then if you use the word cheat, you'll find the best ways to cheat. Any other need to knows, though, about the project? Okay. So from there, and now I'm going to ask you or suggest to you that you open up the project calendar, because I'm going to speak using the project calendar as something of a framework to remind me of the things that I wanted to cover. And the project calendar is facilitator materials and resources. Now, I'm cheating here. I'm cheating on this cheating lecture a little bit. I didn't really get this much time carved away from the general education teachers. In the rewrite, I gave myself 2 weeks instead of the one that they gave me. But anyway, we've talked a little bit about day one, the entry doc and the need to knows. Day two, what we did was we did some concept development, and I would recommend keeping some form of this in your project for a couple different reasons. The first one is this. This is real old-fashioned gifted stuff. This is a nice way to make sure that you're reaching your gifted learners with time-tested and approved Hilda Taba gifted education kind of stuff. And the other one is because I think it does a good job of helping students structure a website. So with the concept development, on the activities page, you're going to see, or the activities section of the briefcase, I'm going to open up Ways to Cheat Brainstorm 3-4. So each of those columns is a different group. Rather than this is just a Google Doc brainstorming session instead of a public brainstorming session. But it is list things that you can do, tips, tricks, tools, ways to cheat in American studies as a group. So then they have all of these different things. And then the next question, the concept development part of it is, which of these things can you put together because they go in some way? They go together in some way. And then after they do that, label that category for me. Now you've got a category label. Who else has a category? Who else has a category? And you can use things that other people have done already. And now you've got a number of categories, right? Then step two, where this becomes gifted education, categorize the categories. Okay? Now recategorize those categories. And now they really start to think about different ways to categorize their website. We had websites that were organized, most of them were structured around types of assignments that happen in that class. There were, though, some websites structured around type of learning style. Are you an auditory learner or a kinesthetic learner? Some were organized around places you might be. You might be in class. You might be at home. You might be working at school. You might be online. So I would recommend doing, even at the even at the elementary level, I would recommend some form of concept development. I'm back at well, I'm not, but I mean to be back at the project calendar. Now, I want to talk a little bit about this mandatory workshop on outlining, which was the first Wednesday. And the reason I want to talk about it is because I would suggest to you that this may be something you don't do. It has some value. And I'm going to show you the workshop a little bit, how we did this, as basically teaching them how to outline a website and understanding that the outline of a website is the same as the outline of a term paper. If you can't write a term paper on James Joyce, you can't make a website. Now, but what this really was for me, and it was not mandatory when we really did it, it was something that I did with my IEP students because I needed to differentiate for 3 specific students on this specific skill. So this is the way you use this project as a differentiation tool as well. Does anybody remember what I was just about to say?
Don't do the mandatory work.
No. Let's talk a little bit about the. Oh, I do. I do. Thank you. We did this about 9 weeks in. I skipped that. I meant to talk about this a little bit earlier. Late enough so that they had some answers to the question, and early enough so that it would have some effect for them. So, my 3 students, I had one guy who I had been providing outlines for every time they needed to write a paper. And I wanted him to start to learn to do his own outlines. I had one guy who was twice exceptional, gifted and learning disabled, who was having trouble structuring and organizing his papers. And his writing, the message was not getting to the paper. And then I had one guy who was gifted in ABT. Do you guys have ABT? Ain't been taught. He was gifted in ABT, and so he thought everything he did was right, and it didn't matter. And so I needed all 3 of those kids to outline. So what I did, and the way I've designed this activity, this outlining workshop, is I'm asking them to look at 3 existing websites, and we didn't have existing ones at the time, so we used the first draft, and take that website and make an outline out of what they had already done. This, by the way, is the one that, it was not my favorite, but it is the one that the top one is the one that the general education teachers chose as the best one. And the reason they got to choose rather than me is because of my cowardice. So anyway, when I look here, and a Google Doc, a Google site does a good job of showing you the different pages right over here on the left. So when I look, we did this together rather than me doing it beforehand for the sake of time, but you see that when I turn that into an outline, number 1 is home, number 2 is annotations, which is just like their page. Number 3 is essays, just like their page. And then we'd ask for them to look at the mistakes and make a new and improved outline from that. I want to show you real quick this annotations page. When I look at this annotations page, it looks to me like their A and their B are these 2 things in bold. This is the sequence that works best and is the fastest for me, and word queue, right? And so when I make the outline, I made that with the A and the B. And then the bullets that they had there became the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 under the A. This outline falls apart. This is our gifted learners, and not the 3 that I mentioned, because word queue and this is the sequence are not the same. Those are not categories under that annotations page. Word queue really should go inside the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or someplace else altogether. So we do the outline, and now on the first Thursday, they had to what I would do, and this is another revision. I would need to see an outline before I approved them to start on their website, and then let them start on the first draft. And if you do any sort of outline, and whether you do an outlining workshop or not, I would really recommend formalizing that outline before you let them get going. Just for the sake of discipline and academic understanding. And then on Friday we did we did critical friends. You know, they start to do their first draft. They do critical friends together. Again, on Monday became work time. Now the second Tuesday, and I apologize, I thought I had actually, filled in what happened on the second Tuesday, but I hadn't. The second Tuesday was the twist. It was entry doc number 2, and it is called "Are You Chicken?" in the briefcase. And when I go back to that briefcase, and I get to "Are You Chicken?" Notice, by the way, here on assessment and guidelines, the rubrics do not have a content rubric. That was part of the compromise between the general education teachers and myself. You're not teaching the content, you're just teaching how to access the content. When I go to "Are You Chicken?", oh boy, did I mess up. Ms. Reese, when we did these sites, Ms. Reese asked me to make sure that your outlines followed the chicken foot organizer structure you've been using. So when you redo your sites, you're going to have to make sure they follow the rule of 3 when you have topics. Either have 3 or don't have any. If you click on that chicken foot template, that's one of the things that doesn't link right. One of the things that Lucy has some splaining to do on. But essentially what she does is she draws a picture of an arm with three legs. Your thesis goes along the arm, and your subpoints go there. And the reason I show you this particular twist is because, again, what this is something that you would probably pull out, right? Because it's not specific to you. This is vertical articulation for our specific school. And it gives me it gives us the opportunity with our IEP learners to give them a workshop on the chicken foot method without pulling them out for a workshop on the chicken foot method. And in many ways that's the project at its core. Oh, I'm doing pretty good here. Because I'm not totally sure that you have all of these, all these links to all these examples today. I thought this one was kind of fun, this Learner's Tips for Success, because this is one that organizes it. And again, now you're starting to see visually and layout the difference between what our gifted learners provided and what a lower middle group provided. But this is one that organized around visual learners, auditory learners, and kinesthetic learners with scroll down with a little quiz on finding out what type of a learner you are. And then when I go to, and here you're going to, and then, oh, where am I? Wrong place. And then you're going to see where some of my instruction falls apart. This is, the third one is one of the IEP groups. So I wanted to get that up at the top for you as well. So up on the top on there, I've got the winner, I've got a lower middle, and I've got an IEP group. Are you not getting it?
None of us have the permission.
Do you? Yeah. That's what I was saying. I've got some splaining to do. And you may have walked in just after I had said where I had said that was going to happen. And that and my commitment to you is that I will archive and repost with fixes on that. Yes, sir?
One thing that I'm not clear on, and you may have said it before I walked in, did all the students in the class do this particular project, or was this reserved for the kids with IEPs?
Thank you, and I did, but it's never wrong to go over it again. I did. All the kids did it. I grouped my IEP students together rather than pulling them out and just having them do this all by themselves. So we grouped homogenously. We grouped the gifted kids together so I could get the gifted kids together without pulling them out. No, and to be honest, that was the main reason. And the other reason is because it was driving me crazy at that point that they were grouping heterogeneously every time. And I felt like, if I had done this at the end of the year, when they started grouping homogenously every time, I may have gone a different way on that.
Well, you're right, this could be really good for doing early in the school year for all classes.
Thank you. That is what I'm hoping. Again, and if you didn't hear it, he said something like either he said you're right or you're an absolute genius. This is something that could be adapted for all classes, and again, that's what I hope. I hope you take this. I hope you adapt it. I hope we have a best ways to cheat series on this project library. So when new special ed facilitators come to the New Tech Network, they can go right on there and use it. And I hope to be presenting here with some of you. Let me tell you exactly who I mean. No, with some of you next summer at InTech. I'm about to move on to a couple other a brand new topic here. And of course we have the Google Doc and we have time at the end. Yes, ma'am. That's a very good question. And the question was, is this an ongoing website or is it, right?
So do you set it up immediately or at the end?
Again, we set this up. We did this right around 9 weeks in. Late enough so that they had some answers to the question, right? They had to have some experience on what tips and tricks they used, but early enough so that it would solve some problems, right? So that they could go to these websites and teach each other and learn tips and tricks and tools. Now, go ahead. It was something that they used, but it was not something we did any revisions on. And I think it would be great. As a matter of fact, the reason we didn't do any revisions on it is because it didn't occur to me until this very moment. So thank you. And you'll, if we do present together next summer, you'll learn that I very often think of the right idea long after it was time. Any others before I move on? There's something else I want to show you that I think is a great way to use Echo to communicate with between regular and special ed students. I want to tell you one more thing too. On the thing, I'm flying solo on the thing. My inclusion partner Violetta Georgievich and I were going to be together. You're getting everything that she had to leave, and you're getting everything Violetta would have said too. She would have just been much more articulate and interesting. But the only thing that I'm not really covering, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it, and I'm going to show you her collection as well. She also does a project that is specifically for her gifted learner. I am going to go back to groups, and from groups I'm going to go to InTech 2014. From InTech 2014 I'm going to collections. And this time I'm going to Violetta's collection. Now we have no idea why at some point Violetta got a star. So she's right up here on page 1. She was not starred in the morning yesterday, and she is now. From there, she's got the project I just talked about here is a collection project for GTL, gifted and talented learners. But what I want to show you here is Tier 3 documentation with Echo. Here's what we do. We make a course called Tier 3 Documentation with Echo, and we make every IEP student a project. And then we add all of the instructors in the school to the course, so that they can go and they can immediately access any information that we think they need. We put their modifications on there. We put their test scores, their disability, their identification. If they have a behavior plan, we put it on. We do parent contacts. As you can see from the briefcase, that, and this, you need to keep the projects hidden because certain things come up if you show a project that people have access to, that you don't want to. But if you hide the project, anybody who you've added as an instructor is there as well. We don't put IEPs, but we do cut and paste the modifications page. The the IEP is just overkill. Nobody's really going to want to read all that, you know. It just reminds me of a story at the school I was at before. The head special ed teacher, refused to let general educators read the IEP under the guise that was not legal. And I said, well, but a general education teacher has to be at the IEP, right? So they have to be at the IEP but not pay attention? I wasn't very popular before that, so.
So where can you post that at?
On the project post, I'm sorry, the question was where do you post that at, but I'm not sure if I'm answering.
Modifications and.
We have it, we try to put it right here, it's part of the briefcase. So it's just I would just add new item right there and just put it right in the modifications section of the briefcase. I have to, full disclosure, we're at a little bit of, we battle back and forth a little bit on that. I prefer the modifications to be posted on the need to know section so they don't have to make another click. And she prefers to have the test scores on the need to know section. That, good news for you. It's about time for me to stop talking. Before I do, thank you so much. I hope that you go to the app and reward the good people at Intact for their work and review the session. And of course, I hope you review it positively. But I've been, as you can see, I'm about 20 years old, but I've been in this game for a long time, and I've been doing some sort of project-based learning and thematic learning for just about all of it, and I've just finished my first year at a new tech school, and I'm just amazed. I'm amazed at what we're doing here. I'm amazed at these conferences about how many people are smarter than I am, and I'm sincere when I say I couldn't be happier and I couldn't be in a better place than where I'm standing right now. When I go back, I can't imagine being in a better place there either. So I'd like to kind of just turn this over to you. I mean, feel free to leave. Feel free to stay and answer questions. Feel free to jump onto that Google Doc and offer suggestions and answer questions. Again, I'd love to have your email, and feel free to copy that project, make a best of project of your own. Let me know, and I can hardly wait to present with you here on this very same topic next summer. Thanks. Thank you.